pick and pop action right here.
10th with run and a little clock. Clark back for Dantas, had it deflected. Agumawale with a steal. She's off to the races. Here comes Lexi Hull, and it's a foul and an and one. Boston able to save the offensive rebound. Mitchell on a crossover. She will launch and bury a three. Austin with the shot clock down to 4, looking for Hull. Hull's going to have to create, just hoists it up there and banks it home. And a total summation of how things have gone for her here out of the Olympic break.
Imagine scoring 35 points in a WNBA game, breaking records left and right, and then bam, you're hit with a foul so hard it makes your head spin. That's exactly what happened to Caitlin Clark in her matchup against the Dallas Wings. But here's the kicker. The refs called it on her at first. You won't believe what happened next. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The arena was electric. Clark was on fire, sinking shots like they were going out of style. She was unstoppable, making the Wings look like they were playing in slow motion. Then, out of nowhere, chaos erupted. Clark got elbowed in the face, hard. Everyone saw it. But get this, the refs called the foul on Clark. Can you imagine? The crowd went wild. Players were confused, and Clark? She looked like she'd seen a ghost. So here's the million-dollar question. How did this crazy call affect the game? Did it throw Clark off her game, or did it light a fire under her? You're gonna want to stick around to find out, because what happened next was absolutely insane. You think that foul was wild. Wait till you see how Clark responded. Ever wonder what happens when you poke a sleeping giant?
We could have executed a little bit better down the stretch, but I think we just really read and understand each other a lot better from where we were at the beginning of the season. Like, the amount of backdoor cuts that girl has got just because we make eye contact and she knows to go back doors.
It seemed like there was a lot of back and forth. You guys, like Sheldon, you guys go way back, right? So there seemed to be some chatter back and forth. Is this the kind of game you enjoy playing, even though it's right to the end and you want to put them away?
Yeah, I thought the game was really fun. Obviously, once we got it to 8, I wish we could have kept that a little bit better. We didn't execute really in the half court as well, and when they started throwing some traps at us, we didn't respond to it great. So.
Clark didn't just wake up, she turned into an unstoppable force that left everyone's jaws on the floor. Let's talk numbers for a second. Clark didn't just have a good game, she had a career-defining performance. We're talking 35 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals. But it's not just about the stats, it's about how she got them. Clark was weaving through defenders, sinking shots from downtown, and making passes that would make Magic Johnson proud. But here's the kicker. Clark didn't just have a great game, she made history. She blew past 746 points for the season, shattering the record for most points scored by a rookie in WNBA history. That's not just good, that's legendary stuff right there. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about that foul? Didn't it throw her off her game? Nope, not even close. If anything, it lit a fire under her. Clark's mental toughness is off the charts. She didn't let the physicality or the questionable calls get to her. Instead, she used it as fuel. You want to know how tough Clark is? After the game, she said, "It's just part of basketball. That's it. No complaints, no excuses. Just a straight up acknowledgement that this is what it takes to play at the highest level." That's the kind of attitude that separates the good from the great. But let's talk about the fourth quarter. That's when Clark went from great to unstoppable. The commentators said she turned into Megatron, and they weren't kidding. She was scoring at will, making defenders look like they were standing still. It was like watching a highlight reel in real time. Clark's highlight reel was amazing, but it's only half the story. The other half, it's about what happens when the whistle doesn't blow. Are the refs letting things get out of hand, or is this just part of the WNBA's physical nature? Let's break it down. Caitlin Clark has been on the receiving end of 5 flagrant fouls this season. That might not sound like a lot, but get this. There have only been 30 flagrant fouls in the entire league. Do the math, and you'll see that Clark's taking 17% of all the hardest hits in the WNBA.
I think I was just excited to play. Anytime you get the opportunity to get out there and go play, and knowing this, this was our last regular season one at home. It's fun. It's on the weekend. It's an afternoon game. Like, those are just better. Get over the hump of, really getting hot. I know I was 6 for 14, and that's pretty good, but, I still feel like there was a couple there that it's just how's that not go in? So, I think it just speaks to their offensive firepower that they had, like Enrique and Sabali's really good. And then we obviously struggled to guard their post players for at least 3 quarters. So, thought we could improve in that area.
That's not just a coincidence, folks. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but Clark's a star player. She's bound to get fouled more, right? Sure, but this is next level. We're talking about fouls so hard they make you wince just watching them, and it's not spread out evenly across the league. The Chicago Sky, they're responsible for 80% of these flagrant fouls against Clark. That's like they've got a target on her back every time they play. But here's where it gets really interesting. The refs, they're not always on top of it. Remember that elbow to the face we talked about earlier? That's just the tip of the iceberg. The officiating in the WNBA is under fire, and it's not just about Clark. Players across the league are dealing with increased physicality, and the refs are struggling to keep up. Clark herself has spoken out about it. After one particularly rough game, she said, "That's just not a basketball play, but gotta play through it." That's Clark in a nutshell. Tough as nails and ready for whatever comes her way. But should she have to be? The transition from college to the WNBA is no joke. It's like going from playing checkers to 3D chess while someone's trying to tackle you. Clark's learning to navigate this new, more physical style of play, but at what cost? Player safety is becoming a real concern, and it's not just about Clark, it's about the future of the league. Think about it. If star players are constantly at risk of injury from hard fouls, what does that mean for the WNBA as a whole? It's not just about one game or one season. It's about the long-term health of the sport. And that's where the refs come in. They're the ones who set the tone, who decide what's acceptable and what's crossing the line. But here's the kicker, it's not just about protecting players. It's about preserving the integrity of the game. When refs miss calls or let things slide, it changes how teams play. It affects strategy, player morale, and even fan engagement. After all, who wants to watch their favorite player get knocked around without consequence? You've seen Clark's incredible stats, but have you noticed how she's reshaping the entire WNBA? Her fiery attitude on the court isn't just entertaining, it's forcing everyone, from players to refs, to adapt. But at what cost? Caitlin Clark isn't just a player, she's a force of nature. Her competitive spirit and trash talking on the court are legendary. It's like she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But here's the thing, that same fire that makes her unstoppable, it's also making her a target. Think about it. Clark's transition from college to the WNBA has been like going from the kiddie pool to the deep end. The physicality is through the roof. Teams are trying to wear her down, hitting her on drives, setting hard screens. It's a whole new ball game, and Clark's right in the middle of it. But Clark, she's not backing down. She's adapting, evolving, becoming even more of a beast on the court. It's like she thrives on the challenge. When asked about the hard fouls, she just shrugged it off, saying, "It's just part of basketball." That's Clark for you, tough as nails and always ready for more. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Clark's not just adapting to the WNBA, she's making the WNBA adapt to her. Her presence on the court is like a tornado, forcing teams to change their entire game plan. They're doubling down on defense, getting more physical, doing anything they can to slow her down. And the refs, they're caught in the middle of it all. Clark's style of play is pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable on the court. It's like she's rewriting the rule book with every game she plays. The refs are having to make split-second decisions on plays they've never seen before. It's a whole new world out there. But here's the million-dollar question. Is this good for the WNBA? On one hand, Clark's bringing a level of excitement and competitiveness that's drawing in fans like never before. People are tuning in just to see what she'll do next. It's like watching a highlight reel in real time. On the other hand, the increased physicality is raising some serious questions about player safety. We're seeing more hard fouls, more confrontations, more tension on the court. It's exciting, sure, but at what point does it cross the line? And let's not forget about the other players. Clark's style is forcing them to step up their game, to get tougher, to play harder. It's raising the overall level of play in the league, but it's also putting more pressure on everyone, players, coaches, and refs alike. So what's the bottom line? Clark's impact goes way beyond just her stats. She's changing the very nature of how the game is played and officiated in the WNBA. It's like she's single-handedly dragging the league into a new era. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, well, that's still up for debate. So what's the deal with WNBA officiating? Clark's putting up insane numbers, but she's also taking some serious hits. The refs are struggling to keep up, and it's not just about Clark, it's about the whole league. Here's the big question. How can the WNBA protect its stars without killing the competitive spirit? It's like trying to ride two horses at once. You want tough, exciting games, but you also need your players in one piece. What do you think? Should the refs crack down harder on physical play, or is this just part of the game? Maybe there's a middle ground we haven't found yet. The future of the WNBA might depend on figuring this out. After all, we want to see Clark and other stars lighting up the scoreboard for years to come, not sitting on the bench with injuries.